Yeah. So what we discussed in yesterday's class is related with the measurement scales. We discussed what is a variable and how attitudes towards a news, TV news organizations and gratification changes. So how variable affects variables does not mean only age and other things, but also attitudes. We discussed about different types of scales. Under that, we discussed simple rating scale. We discussed about transformation scale, Thurstone scale, and also Gutman scale. So I think we also try to understand what are the nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio scales. Also, when you are preparing a questionnaire, it is important that how you arrange the things in a questionnaire, what type of a measurement scale you take to test your data or your respondents. So this is how it is very important with regards to that. So in today's class, we will go. Uh, we will start with where we stopped in the previous class, that is with the I think if I remember, we stopped with the Likert scale. So Likert scale is the most frequently used scale in the mass media research. So this is what you must understand. The other scales, it's okay if you know why those scales are there, what is the importance of those scales, but Likert scale is something that you better learn thoroughly. Now today we'll try to see how exactly it is useful for us in the field of mass media research. It is also called the summated rating approach. Okay, what is it called as? Likert scale is also called as the summated rating approach. I'll just put it over here so that you can take down. It's also known as summated rating approach. A number of statements. So what happens in a Likert scale is that you develop a number of statements, and these number of statements that are developed with respect to a topic that you choose, and also the respondents can choose some options from for those statements that you make. So what are the options you give to them? You give the respondents two options to choose something like this, which I'm going to place over here. So in your questionnaire, you have some statements, and you will ask your respondent to either agree, disagree, or be neutral, or strongly disagree or strongly agree. So your statements will be given some kind of an options like this. So each response option is weighted, and each subject's responses are added to the produce a single score on the topic. The basic procedure for developing this Likert scale is, there are few important points that you can make note with regards to the Likert scale. I'll just place them over here. I hope you all are able to see my screen.
Yes, madam, we are able to see, sir.
Okay. So here are some basic things that you must learn with regards to the. Let me just place this. Right. I'm just adjusting so that you'll be able to uh, easily see this. So now here you can see what are the basic procedures for developing a Likert scale. Since it's associated with mass media, I would like to take few minutes to explain about this so that you will understand it. And in case in future, if you have an interest to do a research and you would like to implement something related with this kind of a scale, it will help you out. So what is that basic things that you have to keep in your mind? First is compile a large number of statements. This is very important. Having a huge number of statements is very important. If you have more number of statements that are related to a specific dimension, some statements should be positive worded and some to be negatively worded, to know the opinion of the people, because it shouldn't also sound like one sided kind of an questionnaire that has been prepared. So you put certain questions positively and certain questions negatively. Questions in the sense here we call them as a statements, and administer this scale to a randomly selected population. Now, this is a big word, randomly selected population. I'm giving one different color to each of them so that you will understand the importance of the word. Now, when I say randomly selected, what is this? This comes into a sampling procedure, which we are going to discuss next after this topic. So, while you select your sample, you will just randomly pick up somebody. So, you don't have any interest or reason to be picked up by somebody or something specific reason. So, you will pick up some random people and then administer this questionnaire to them. And after you administer this questionnaire to them, what you do have to do is you have to code the responses. Now coding a big duty. You just have to take it up and then work on it. You have certain softwares, as I told you in the previous class. For qualitative study you have softwares, for quantitative study you have something like spss and all that, consistently, so that high scores indicate stronger agreement with the attitude in question. So there is a possibility, because you are wording them positively and also negatively. So if you get something like a stronger agreement, that means towards the question, the score, high score, is a stronger acceptance with what you are trying to tell. And then you analyze the responses, select for the final scale, and the statements that the most clearly differentiate the highest from the lowest score. So from that first initial stage of the um, questions that you make, then what you have to do is the second stage, you have to take most clear statements which are clearly indicating the highest and the lowest score. Finally, like that, you can build up a proper final scale that you would like to come up with for your uh, you know uh, I don't know whether I'll be able to place this all in the screen, but I'll try to show you. I'll just stop sharing this. I'll share another screen. I think that will help you in understanding. Yeah. Are you able to see this one on my screen? A 6 item Likert scale for measuring employment self esteem.
Yes, madam.
Okay, so this is Likert scale. Okay, this is how they develop. So now I told you, know, there will be a strongly disagreements, somewhat disagree, neutral, somewhat agree, somewhat disagree. Now these are the statements which I'm talking about. I feel good about my job. So if the person says strongly agree, he will give one. Strongly disagree, he'll give one, like that. So here you have a stronger statements, and here you have a weaker statement. So you have some positive, and you will also have some negative. I feel like I make a useful contribution at work. I can tell that my co-workers respect me. So you can also give a negative statement of that. I don't expect any kind of respect in my office. So like that, you make statements wording some in positive and some in negative. So but you, what you do basically here is that you should take out some time and sit and work for the work for the statements that you develop, and then you take the opinion of the people. Okay. So, right. So, moving on to the next type of a. So, I can move this now. I hope you have noted down the points which I've put down over here with it, just by giving a review of the table that I have given you. Now, the last but not least type of a scale, mostly even equally used in the field of mass media. Right. Semantic differential scale. What is this? It is another commonly used scaling procedure in the semantical differential technique. This technique is used to measure the meaning an item has for an individual. So, what do you mean about one particular statement that is made in your questionnaire? Research indicate the three general factors. One is the activity, potency, and evaluation were measured by the semantical differential. So, now, by asking an individual their opinion about certain statements, do they, feel that question is about the trying to know about the activity or about the talent of a person, or you're trying to evaluate the person? So, these are the three things that you would like to identify with semantical differentiation. Now, communication researchers were quick to adopt this, and also the dimensions of the semantic differential used to measure the attitudes. Whenever you have the concept of measuring attitude, semantical differential scale comes into the picture. So I think more or less this is widely used even for psychology and also mass communication. But whereas comparatively more in the field of mass communications, you find that this has been used. So I will just again show you a sample of semantical differential scale, which you can have a look at. like this it looks like. Okay, semantical scale. You will try to know in specific, as I just now told you, in specific about the meaning an item has for an individual. What do you mean, or what do you understand? Now you feel it is good or you feel it is bad. Okay, you are trying to ask about any specific statement. So under that you have various levels also mentioned. From a good to a bad, there is a series of attitudes that have been mentioned over here, so which will be measured. Okay, extremely good or quite good, or slightly good, or neither, not at all, slightly bad. So something which is middle is the median, whereas it goes towards this bad side. You have the same three terms repeated: extremely bad, or extremely quite bad, or slightly bad, or none of them, like where person won't be able to say anything. That is how it is. Now other semantical differential scales talk about, like, important, unimportant, expensive, inexpensive, useful, useless, strong, weak, quick, and slow. So in between, there won't be anything. Either they will be choosing this or that. So it is like an attitudinal test that you will try to mostly look at it. Am I clear with this? I hope you understood what I'm trying to tell.
Yes, madam.
Yeah. So now let's look at the next concept, that is, in research specifically there are two types of data that we collect. As I've always told you that this type of data play a key role. One is the primary research. Okay, the one is first one is the primary research. So primary research is a kind of a collection of a original primary data collected by the researcher. What is that? It is the collection of original data. What is original data means? The next question comes is, what do you mean by original data? Means this data that has not been collected by anybody anywhere earlier. You are only exclusively collecting this data. That is called as an original data. Now what is this original primary data? Means suppose you are conducting a survey. Okay, then that is called as a and that content that you have collected, the data that you have collected, called as a original primary data, because you are exclusively collecting it. Nobody else have collected from that sample on the specific topic that you have done. There might have been other research done on. If somebody in research, what is most important thing that you have to keep in your mind is, if somebody has already done a research related to some area, you are not supposed to do it again, because it becomes a repetition of the same study. But whereas what you have to do is something very which is new, then only it is called as a scientific study. Already somebody has done a study, then you are referring it as a review of literature, but you cannot call it as a new study. Understood? So primary data, and it is often undertaken after the researcher has gained some knowledge into related to the secondary research. So now what is the first thing that you have to do is, first is the primary research and the second one is the secondary research. Now these two things are the heart and soul of the entire research process. Whenever you are writing a paper or doing anything, you need to first understand what is primary research and what is secondary research. As I said, you primary research is any survey or any qualitative data or anything that you are administering as a researcher, collecting it, compiling it, studying it, and putting it. This is unique of yours, and nobody has undertaken it. But to do a primary research, you need a support of a secondary research. That is why, suppose I'll tell you an example. Let us assume that the recent elections that have happened in the north side. So now you have estimated, you have done a research, you wanted to do a research why those particular leaders have been chosen. Okay, but for that you need to study about what is the background of that area, who were the leaders earlier or the leaders who are contesting there, why, what kind of a population is living in these states, which leader they mostly prefer, what is the cultural background of that area. All this is secondary data. To do a primary research, what you need is the support of the secondary data. Means, as a human being, I may not know everything under the sky. So to gain knowledge, I will read books, I will refer newspapers, I will listen to some content in the television or radio or anywhere, and then I build upon it knowledge on that. Then I go for a primary data. It can be accomplished through various methods, which I just now told you. You can do with a questionnaire designing, you can take a telephone interview, you can do a market research or do an experiment, or you observe people being as a participant among them, and then many ways you can collect the primary data. There are certain advantages associated with primary data, and then there is a possibility. Disadvantage is that there is a possibility of tampering of the data also. So the disadvantages is that it is also an expensive and time consuming. Now to do a research, you need to allot a good amount of time. Along with your regular life, you wanted to do a research means definitely you won't be able to do a complete work. If you have to do a complete work, then you need to give complete time also to that. And then it will be expensive. You have to, meet people, you have to gather, you have to go to libraries and all that. So this is also an expensive business. So quickly talking out the advantages. One is it focuses on both qualitative and quantitative. Primary data can be done both qualitative and quantitative. At the same time, it addresses the specific research issues as a researcher controls the research design to fit their needs. Now, as a researcher, I have every right to design the research the way I want it, right? I will design it, whether it is a survey or I will design it as a qualitative data. I did a research on television serials. So, when I was doing a research on television serials, I have done a survey with 600 people. I did a qualitative research of a group discussions of the villages or the districts in Andhra Pradesh where television serials are highly viewed. And I also did a content analysis. So this is my design of my research. Okay. I wanted to know more and more about this concept from all the sectors. So in the content analysis, what I did, I interviewed the I have watched the television serials almost 500 episodes of all the television serials which were top rated at that time when I was doing my research. Now, apart from that, I also did in depth interviews of the directors of the television serials. So, how many methods I have included in my research? I have included four methods. One is the survey, second one is the what do you call observation method, where I have done a field observations of the television serial viewers, and the third one is content analysis, where I have viewed the television serials, top rated serials, and fourth one is the in depth interviews of the television serial directors. So four methods. It is a specific research issue. As a researcher, I control the research design to fit my needs. That's what it means. Okay. So you have a great control. Not only does primary research enables the marketers to focus on a specific subject, as well as the control how information can be controlled. Now there are various disadvantages also associated with it. As I just now told you, it is time consuming, and sometimes you questionnaire, if it is not properly designed or not properly executed, the data you collect becomes goes waste. Okay, some research projects, while potentially offering information that could prove quite valuable, may not be within the research of a reach of a researcher. Now if I have to do some very good research but I cannot travel there, I cannot go there, so that's another disadvantage. Okay. By the time the research is completed, completely your topic may go out of date also, because it's a time consuming, as I said you. Low response rate, and because people won't be interested, you are doing a research and half of them don't know what research is and all that. So that is another important thing. So now coming to the secondary research involves a summary and collection and a synthesis of existing research rather than the primary research, where data is collected from research subjects or experiments. Now what I said you, secondary research is something which is the data which is available already, which you are trying to access. Now, so there is some content which is already available, which you are trying to develop. Like, you have a lot of things written about COVID in newspapers. There's so many websites that have written about COVID. There's so many magazines, YouTube channels that have discussed so much of data is there. All that is a secondary data rather than a primary research where data is collected from research subject or an experiment. So already that has been conducted. Now you can write research papers solely dependent on a primary data or even on the secondary data also. But how you are going to use the secondary data, what is that which is newly you are trying to communicate by using a secondary data, all that depends upon the expertise and the knowledge of the researcher. The key performing areas in the secondary research is the full citations of the original sources, means you have to give, remember in research whatever research you do, you must give a source of that particular research, otherwise it goes like, as you have copied the content and then you become get into the plagiarism and issues like that. And advantage of secondary data is that because it's already been collected by so many people, written by so many people with proper references, you can quickly finish off that research. It's also less cost because it's all data is available, you just have to analyze and then do it. Just a minute. Okay. So disadvantages, of course, it is not a original data, so it is always a disadvantage because it is not an original data, and also it's your own data, your own research gives you a much more knowledge than being dependent on a secondary data. So with this we finish related with the scales and measurement scales of the research. Now we move on to something on a sampling procedure. So how to select a sample in research. I hope I am clear till here. Should I move on?
Okay, madam. Primary and secondary research is clear, madam.
Clear. Okay. Now the next topic is the sampling procedures. So before we understand what are the sampling procedures, it's important that you understand what is a sample. Okay, what is a sample? I'll just try to take any picture for you which helps you to understand sample. Are you able to see this picture, Andy? Population and sample.
Yes, madam. Population sample.
I'll just make it little large so that you'll be able to see.
Please learn.
Yeah. So now let's understand what is a sample and then we'll understand what is a population. Then you will be able to understand what exactly sampling process means. Procedure is nothing but sampling process means what you do on the sample that you select. Now, what is a population? Okay. Population means everybody who is there, existing on the earth. Okay. It means specifically the people who could be taken into your study. Now suppose you say you are doing a research on television serials, or if I say on news channels, let us say, somebody the other day, if I remember, when we were having offline class, somebody said that they are doing research on rural population. So all the rural people in Indian population in India are part of your, can be included in your study. So that is called as a population. Okay. And a population, participants are chosen randomly or either through a random number table or putting all names in that hat means now from the population what you derive is the sample from all the people. Now suppose imagine some 1 2 3 crores of people fall into the category of your research that you are doing. As I said, some rural population. So whatever is the number of the rural population that exists in India, all of them can be a people whom you can study. But will you be able to study all of them? Do you have a time? Can you travel so much? No. So what you do is you pick up few people for your study. So out of this big number of people, you are picking up some 10 people or 50 people. And how do you choose those 50 people or 10 people? Can somebody tell? How will you choose those 10, 50 people or 100 people?
Randomly, by randomly selection.
Exactly. Means there is some method through which you select. So research gives you certain methods. That methods are nothing but sampling procedure. So from the entire population, because everybody cannot be included, you wanted to choose some people. Okay. Those some people, how are you selecting them? There has to be, as I said, it is scientific research, scientific method. So there has to be some reason, there has to be some meaning in what you are choosing. That meaning and reason we will try to see now with the sampling procedures. I hope the population and the sample concept is clear to all of you, right? So a sample frame. So here something which is again an addition to what we are learning, so that you can keep that also in your mind. Let us look at this definition or the meaning that is given to the sample frame. Any probability sample is a complete list of all the cases in the population from which your sample will be drawn. So you frame, as I said, population is everybody who is possibly can be there, but you have certain frame. Now in the previous example, I'll go with the same example that was told by one of the student. uh, Rural population and the educational facilities. Now in the rural population, not everybody fall into the category of education, right? So that particular set of people who are supposed to get education become the particular frame. Okay, what is the meaning of a frame? In a frame you have four sides, and within that you have the elements placed. So when you look into the frame, you see only those people into that frame. So similarly, that particular frame consists of the people who are wanting to pursue education in the rural area. So all those set of people who want to pursue education will come and fit in that frame that you wanted to study. So that is called as a sample frame. Okay. So if your research questions or your objective is basically concerned with the members of local press club, okay, your sample frame will be complete membership list of that club. Is this clear? This is an example that probably will help you to understand the sampling frame much better. Suppose you are doing a study to know more about something like a local press club. So, who all are members of that press club become your sample frame. I'll just put it here so that this example will be in your mind when you are reading about this. So this is the example where you can a research question or objective. Now see, when you are doing your research question and objective play a key role, because these are the objectives that give you your result. Based on your objective, your title is framed. Based on your objective, your questions are framed. If you frame your questions properly, then only you will achieve the aim of your research, which is the main title of your research. I hope you are understanding this, right? I don't want to go much into details of these things, but I thought it's okay if you learn and understand them so that later you should not get confused. So, during the again, something like a new term. Now, here, what I told you under the sampling procedures, first thing term you have to learn is about population. Second term you have to learn about is a sample. And then the third term you are learning is about the sampling frame. Now, the fourth one is the sample unit. Okay, sample unit means how do you select this sample unit? Generally we don't do all these things, we just select a sample directly. Who all fall into that category they will fill in, but you should have a knowledge of all these things so that you can be more specific and clear. So during the actual sampling process, the element of a population must be selected according to a certain procedure. As I told you, the procedure is important. So sampling unit is a single element or a group of a subject to select the sample. To select a sample, what you do, a group of population. Sample unit is a single element or a group of elements subject to a selection in a sample. Means there is one thing because of which you are selecting them. Okay, what is that one common thing among all that sample frame? You are picking up one common element and trying to pick those people into your study. For example, if you want to select, if an airline wishes to sample passengers, so it want to pick up certain passengers, it may take every fifth name in a complete list of passengers. So it wanted to pick up some passengers on whom it want to do a survey. Let us take the facilities provided by the airline. So how do I do? Then they will take a complete list of that particular plane, whoever is traveling, traveled, and then they'll choose every fifth person, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, like that. Every fifth person they'll pick up and they make the sample unit. In this case, sample unit would be the same as the element. Otherwise, the airline could first select certain flights. If not passengers, it can select certain flights as a sample unit and then select certain passengers of each flight. In this case, sampling unit contains many elements. You can choose from one flight to have the passengers, or you can choose many flights. Those flight selections also based on some criteria. It's just not like that. Okay, first select certain flights. How you select those certain flights? You can say flights one from this direction, that direction, and another direction, like that. You pick up 8 to 9 flight or whatever flights you have. You give certain criteria of selection of those flights. From those flights also you give a selection of the passengers. So that is called as a sample unit. Yeah. So now let us come to the main thing. With this, we are done with the sample, how to understand and all that. Let us understand. Uh, right. Just a second. Just a second. Control V. I'm not able to paste this over here, so I'll try. Yeah. So these are the probability sampling. There are two ways methods. One is probability sampling. The other one is non-probability sampling. Okay. Right. So under this probability sampling, you have first one is the called as a random sampling. Okay, first one is the random sampling, which involves you to select the sample at random from a sampling frame using either a random numbers or a computer. And to do this, what you do is you do number each of the case in your sample frame with a unique number. And the first case, if you are numbered somebody as a 0, in the second you put as a 2, and then 3, 4, 5, like that, and select cases using random numbers until your actual sample size is reached. So you just randomly pick up. You do not have any reason or a specific criteria for them to be included in the study. Okay, this is called as a simple random sampling, which is the best one to use when you have an accurate or easily accessible. Now I say every fifth person, or I prepare a data of 50 people. Okay, and then I say every third person or every fifth person in this data would come include in my procedure of sampling. So then I randomly picked up 3, 6, 7, 8, like that. I'll just pick up. There is no reason. When do you do a random sampling? When everybody in your population has an equal chance to be selected. Okay, therefore you pick up anybody, it doesn't really matter. But there will be certain times where you need a specific criteria for your sample also, means they should be knowledgeable, or they should be part of that particular study that you're doing. So in those cases, what do? You have to look at a different style. Okay, so as you can say, simple random is requires a little advanced knowledge of population, may not yeah. And the disadvantage is associated with is that it may not capture specific group, and may not be efficient also. Randomly you have chosen somebody because you are not clear about whom to select and all that. They may fit into your criteria, sometimes they may not fit into your criteria. So simple random sampling is the best used when you have an accurate or an easy accessible sample frame that lists the entire population, preferably sorted on a computer. While you are often obtained by these employees with an organization members or a clubs or societies, then what you have to do is available type of organization. You can pick up the population cover, and then large geographically you can randomly select the people. It is very simple. What I say is random. So, simple random sampling is just randomly pick up somebody. So now next comes is a stratified sampling. So one side you have a simple random sampling where a random sample is taken from a list, right, representing the population. Often some information about the subgroups within sample frame can be used to improve the efficiency of the sampling. Whereas when you come to a stratified sampling, improves the sampling's efficiency by increasing the accuracy at a faster rate than the cost increase. The rate of the increase of both accuracy and the cost depend upon the variables used in the form of and in a straight associated with the interest of the variables. Um, so here, as you can see, systematic random sampling or a stratified random sampling, and also cluster random sampling. Let us look at the systematic random sampling, which is high in precision and also easy to analyze the data and computer sampling errors. And then you have a stratified sampling random, where you have a capture a specific group. As I told you, uh, if I say people who read newspapers, now all those who don't read newspapers cannot fall into my category. I can't do a random sampling with the people when I'm looking at a specific readers of business news, specific readers of something on agriculture or science and technology. So some people only read that. Okay, so such kind of people you can use a systematic random sampling. You will have a system for it. Like as I said, you every fifth person, every 10th person, there is a system according to that. Stratified is a captured specific groups, disproportionate sampling possible and highest in precision. So now when you look at the stratified random sampling is modified a random sampling in which you divide the population into two or more equivalent significant stratas, means on a on one or a more members of attributes, means all of them fall into this category of a sample frame. And then from there you pick up the samples. So clusters, also clusters, as you can say, means like, what do you call them, area wise or one specific category wise you will pick up them. Like stratified sampling, even cluster sampling is also a two-step process. First you pick up one same category and from there you pick up again. Unlike stratified sampling, the process of cluster sampling involves dividing the population into subgroups. So you have a main population and again you divide them into subgroups, and there the clusters instead of a stratas. So it is like, two different groups, subgroups and different groups. You divide the same population to meet the specific requirement that you have. Stratified sampling is homogeneity within a group. Okay, in one group what homogeneity you have, um, and again all groups are included into that. And sampling efficiency improved by increasing the accuracy in the fast rate of than the cost. Whereas you say cluster is like, between two groups, homogeneity between two groups, separate groups will be there, and then you try to look at the homogeneity. In stratified thing, you will have within one group what are the commonalities that are existing. Whereas in cluster sampling you do a random selection of groups. Okay, this group, that group, specific groups you will do it. And sampling efficiency improved by decreasing cost at a faster rate in the accuracy. Okay, right. Let me just move to the next one. Convenience sampling is another method that's mostly preferred these days, because see, choosing your sample is of your convenience, then you will be able to find out the concept that you are looking at. Convenience or haphazard sampling involves selection of haphazard people. Those are cases that are easiest or obtain or your sample, such as a person interviewed at random in a shopping center and the television program. So you go to you wanted to know the choice of the people towards a particular product, and then you go to your showroom, and then randomly somebody you pick up, and then they are random, but they are people who are coming to that showroom. So you, based on your convenience, you choose the sample. Now you have to write how did you select your sample also in the data that you are writing. The sample selection process is continued until you required a proper sample size that you are looking for. And then once the sample size is determined, then you can start your research, distribute the questionnaire scale, and all these things can be done. So there is something called like a convenient method. Now next comes is a non-random sampling, which is also called as a quota sampling. Let me just place to yeah. If you give a one reading to all of them, you will be easily able to understand. It is entirely non-random and is normally used for an interview survey. It is based on the premise that your sample will respect the population's variability in your sample, and also quota variables is the same as that of the population. Therefore, it is a stratified sample in which you select the cases within strata, means within the group. Okay, is entirely non-random. Within one group you look at the similarities, between two groups then means it goes to the cluster sampling. That much understanding you must have. Right, now leaving this sampling thing, the most important and the last things that are very much important for you to understand is with regards to the what I call is statistical understanding. So since we have last 20 minutes, any other thing you would like to know, you can ask me. Otherwise, I'll go to the statistics, because that's very important. We hardly have only 20 minutes to go ahead with that. If you are okay, I'll move on.
Okay, madam. Shall we move on?
Okay. Thank you, sir. Yeah. So, as I have already told you, when you are doing a research, it's all what matters is the data. Now, you have to understand your data very well. If you don't have a proper understanding of your data, you will end up with lot of confusions, and your research may not be, of a great output that you're expecting. So, to do that, first thing is understand your data. First, understand the methodology you are adopting, proper objectives you write. Once you write the objectives properly, choose the population correctly. After you choose the population, properly design the questionnaire to meet the objectives that you are looking for, and then distribute the questionnaire. Now, in the basic concepts of statistics, you mostly look at something called like a descriptive statistics and inferential statistics. Under this, you again have something like parametric statistics and non-parametric statistic test also. So if you look at that unit which is scheduled at the last, it talks about a lot of statistical background and topics like central tendency, variance, statistics, and population parameters. And when it comes to the parametric and non-parametric statistical text, it talks about chi-square test, parametric statistics, ANOVA test, simple linear regression and multiple linear regression, T test, F test, Z test, like that. So many tests are there. Of course, in this limited time, I won't be able to go through all those things, but I would just like to give you some basic knowledge which will help you in understanding your, statistics related with the research. Now, we already discussed about the population and the sample. These two are basic concepts of any statistical procedure that you are looking at. A statistical population can be defined as the set of measurements. Population is the people whom you can measure, or a record of a sample qualitative trait corresponding to the entire collection of the units or which inferences are to be made. Now, sample is a statistical population is set of a measurement that are actually collected in the course of the investigation. Means population means all that who can be taken in interviews. Sample is those whom you have taken interviews. That is the difference between population and the sample. Now, when we talk about descriptive statistics, it consists of a methods of organizing, summarizing information, whereas inferential statistics consist of methods of drawing some measurements from it, okay, and looking at the reliability of the research, conclusions drawing about population based on the information obtained in the sample of the population. Now, descriptive statistics include the construction of something like graphs, pie charts, bar diagrams, or tables, and calculation of various descriptive measures, something like averages, measures of variance, and other things, percentages, and other things. Whereas inferential statistics include methods like point estimation, interval estimation, and also majorly is about the hypothesis testing. This is inferential statistics talk about. So let's move on to the basic thing of to know much deeper about what is parametric, what is non-parametric, and other things. Let us first try to understand something which is very important for you to know is about mean, median, and mode. Okay. Mm, Let me just share my screen so that right. Sorry. So here we will look at this concept of mean, median, and mode. Okay. Um, Let me share this. I hope you are able to see. Right. So in this mean, median, and mode, we also study about range and standard deviation. Now, with regards to mean, median, and mode, we need to understand why are they important, what are they important. Here, there's some other graphs also which are keep coming. You can just ignore them. Basically, we will go to the point when what is that's being discussed over here. Uh, so when we look at this concept, right, distribution, right. So when we have the when we are describing in this particular topic, we need to first understand what is this mean, median, and mode, and then we will understand range and standard deviation. So for any research, to have a statistical understanding, you must understand what is mean, what is median, and what is mode. It's all about numbers that are associated with it. Now when we talk about numbers, measuring central tendency comes with the concept of mean, median, and mode. When you are talking about a concept, something is related with the measuring the spread. What is this spread and what is this center, you will understand once we come towards the end of this particular topic that we are dealing now. So let us first try to understand what this mean, median, and mode is. Now you can see here on the screen some sample data that is given to you. There are some set of people who have something called like this number of heights that they have. Okay, this is what is their height that is measured, and each of them have this much bulk. They have written in those centimeters. Now, how you collect a, how you calculate a mode for this. Now measurement of a mode is refers to the, you can read here, refers to the data value that is most frequently observed. So in this data, what is that which is most frequently observed here? That is, you can see 154 centimeters is repeating thrice here. So this is the most frequently number that is coming in any data. So like that, you identify what is a mode. Okay. So here in this case, it is 154 centimeters is the mode that is there. Now, once you decide your mode, you have to identify what is a mean. Now, when you refer to the data value that is positioned in the middle is called as a median, something which comes in the middle. Now, how would you know which comes in the middle? For that, what you have to do is you have to place all of them in one order. That order should be from small number to the larger number. Now this data will be arranged in this order, okay, from 139 to 192. So smallest number is coming on the top and the highest number is coming in the end. Now what is that which is in the middle is the median. Now here in this case it is 154. There are 4 numbers on top, 4 numbers on the below, and 154 is becoming the median. But this is happening with when you have a data like this, okay, where you have equal numbers this side and that side. And this is the formula, n plus 1 by 2 is the formula to calculate the median. N is the number of the values, means entire table that is given over here. If you add all of them, it is the number. So how many numbers are there? 9. 9 plus 1 is 10. 10 by 2 is 5. So this is the middle number. So fifth number from in this position, fifth number is the median. That is how it is understood. Now it is a case with the 9 number data that you have. But what if you have a data which is having 10 numbers? So one more extra number is there. Sometimes it is also possible, right? That you could also get a 10 number people in the data. So how should you get a middle number for that? So now in this case, you can see 2 numbers become a middle number because you have 4 on top, 4 and below, and 2 numbers come into the middle. Now how you calculate this? There is a procedure for this also to be calculated. So you get, if the same thing with the 10 plus 2 thing, if you do, what number you get is 5.5. Now 5.5 means you have 5 here and you have 6 here. In between the number, it has to be calculated. Between 5 and 6, it has to be calculated. So what you do there as a formula, you add up 154 plus 155 by 2. Whatever comes is the middle value. That is called as a median. 154.5 is the median in this case. Is this clear, Andy? Ikkada varaku?
Yes, madam.
Yeah. Now, 2 things we learned already. What we just now, what we just now before this we understood, mean, mode and median. Mode is something which comes repeatedly. Mean is very important. Out of all, any research is mostly based on mean. Now, how to understand mean? It's an arithmetic average. Mean ante enti? It is average. What is that average? What is the formula for this average? Is this, okay? Sigma x1 by n. Now, how do you calculate? Summation of all data value divided by total number of data value. Summation of all number value divided by total number. N ante టోటల్ నెంబర్ ఎంతమంది ఉన్నారో ఆ లిస్ట్లో వాళ్ళందరిది టోటల్ వేసి దానిపైన మనం ఇది మీన్ అనేదాన్ని క్యాలిక్యులేట్ చేయడం జరుగుతుంది. నా లెట్ us look at how does it happen. Now in this case we have 10 people in the data, right? All of them, what you are doing is you are adding up all of them here and then divided by n is the total number of people. Now when you add all of them divided by 10, this is the value that is getting to you. So this is an average number that is there with the mean. Mean is an average number. Suppose in case in any physical middle point you have to identify, if you go with median, median will be something like a 12 here, because this is the number that you have come to the middle number as a 12. But if you look with a mean, what comes as a middle number is a 10. Okay, so you go with that. So this is how you will try to balance point with mean. That's why mean is always taken to identify the central tendency. Now that helps you to understand how the spreading also. Let us look at range and standard deviation also. ఇవి కొంచెం కాంప్లికేటెడ్ ఉంటాయి అర్థం చేసుకోవడానికి, బట్ better you can take out time and then try to understand them. I'll quickly try to provide you that knowledge also. Now range అంటే ఏంటి? In the data that is provided to you, what is the maximum number, means highest number, what is the minimum number, this is the lowest number. సో హైయెస్ట్ నెంబర్ లోంచి లోయెస్ట్ నెంబర్ తీస్తే వచ్చే వాల్యూనే రేంజ్ అంటారు. సో ఇన్ ద డేటా దట్ ఈస్ ప్రొవైడెడ్ టు అస్ జస్ట్ బిఫోర్ దిస్, వీ కుడ్ సీ the lowest number as 139 and the highest number as 196. 196 minus 139 is going to be the range that you are getting here, which is 57. Okay, so coming to standard deviation. Now this is the formula for standard deviation. By looking at the formula you understand it is very difficult to understand, but it is simple only as we keep understanding it. దీనికోసమని separate data set అనేది ఇక్కడ ప్రొవైడ్ చేశారు, which is you can see here. So this 10, 12, 16, 19, 20 is another data set. So that data set is known as x1. Okay, ఇది ఈ ఫార్ములాలో x1 వచ్చేసి ఈ data set. Okay, so you are finding out the standard deviation for this. Now what you do, you have to first find out this x bar, which is the mean. So now you find out that mean calculation. I'll just go back, I'll show you what did they do here. Observe here, first he calculated this x bar, which is a mean. Mean ante enti, all these things you have to add up and then divided by 5 you do. That is what is the mean. All this add up and you get a 15.4 as the mean. Now or from this data you will minus this 15.4. that is what is the second step that you follow here. Okay, so 10 minus 15.4, like that. As you keep dividing that, this is the minus fractions you get the data. So now as you are getting this data in the minus fractions, what is the next level as per the formula that is given over here? Square root, this 2. Now you multiply them twice, minus minus becomes plus kada. So atla into చేసుకుంటూ పోతే మీకు వచ్చే total value ఇది. When you do complete thing, what is the final value that you get? Sigma you have to do, with which you get the sum of 75.2 as the final output. This all statistical oriented thing which you can even give it to the systems these days. They will do and give you the final output. But for your understanding, I'm telling you to understand. N is the total number. What is the total number? 5. Okay, 5 is what we have. Minus 1 is 4. So now when you do that, is again you get 18.8, which is a square root kabatti, it is 4.334. How does this standard deviation even matter? And చూసుకుంటే it's the closest value to the data set of an area of the mean. So ఈ standard deviation అనేది మీకు ఎలా కనిపిస్తుంది అంటే, if you look at this particular thing, if you have the most of the population falling on the center point of your average, if your average ki దగ్గరగా ఉంటే మీ data, then you have something like a graphs like this, means మీ data normal distribution laga వస్తుంది. If you have scattered data, means chana what do you say, vivid data that you have, it is spread over everywhere, so your data becomes spread extremely too much. So this kind of data is something which you do not really have much of great use. So variance is another concept. I don't think that is much of importance to you. Standard deviation work item, we can look into that. So I hope at least you understood how to identify. The only difference between variance and standard deviation is the square root. You don't take square root, but you have either s square is means the sum of the square is something like this, which is a sample variance or a sample standard deviation that you can look at. So I hope mean, median, and mode is clear to all of you,
Yes, madam. It is clear to
right?
me.
Kani
And
మీకు I agree that you need more time to understand them. Okay, it's like you have to practice, you have to keep listening, and then you will be able to easily understand. But with the example what I have shown you, you are able to understand, no, sir, what mean, median, and mode, and then standard deviation. Formulas good పెట్టుకోవాల్సి ఉంటుంది. They may ask you what formulas and other things, so you better understand. Now what is normal distribution, I will try to just tell you that. uh, just a second, my laptop charging is getting over. Just a second. Let me put a charger. Can you see this screen now which I've shared? Are you able to see the screen, Andy? Am I audible? Am I audible, Andy? Anjay Garu, am I audible?
yes, madam. It is audible.
Yeah. I didn't hear any response. I was just so this is something called like a normal distribution that you can understand. I'll quickly sum up this one. I hope you must have come up across with this bell shaped icon. Okay, bell shaped distribution. What they say is means if your average height means that mean is mostly standing here, then you have given an equal distribution, which is 0.5 here, 0.5 here, and then you have one over here. I'll just make a note of that over here. Mm, yeah. Here, if you are having a 0.5, and then this side also you will have 0.5, and you get a value of 1 here, then that is called as a normal distribution, because it should be clear. It should be like, touching this means equal distribution. In your data you have followed a equal distribution. That's what it has to say. Now if there is any deviation from this, suppose here is an example of a height of a person, whether those who are very short and those who are very tall, and average is this. So bell shaped curve, because it is a systematically curve, means systematically symmetrically curved, that the distribution is being done in a systematic way. But in case somewhere if you did not do that, okay, if you did not do any kind of a proper distribution, average height, to find out these things become a little difficult. So this side what you see is y-axis, as you can, represents the relatively probability of the observing someone who is really short, really tall. So more likely to be height and more less likely to be. So this is how y-axis is divided, and this is how x-axis is also divided. Now how many of them are short and how many of them are tall, and in between how many of them, but it is quite common to see many of them. కొంతమంది మరి షార్ట్గా ఉంటారు, కొంతమంది మరి టాల్ ఉంటారు, కానీ మోస్ట్ ఆఫ్ దస్ ఫాల్ ఇన్ టు యావరేజ్ దిస్ థింగ్. సో ఆ యావరేజ్ లో వచ్చే వాళ్ళు ఎంతమంది, అది ఈక్వల్ గా డిస్ట్రిబ్యూట్ అయిందా లేదా అనేది మనం ఇంటర్ప్రిట్ చేయడం జరుగుతుంది. హియర్ ఇస్ అన్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్ విచ్ ఇస్ గివింగ్ a normal distribution of height of a male and human when a born. ఇది వచ్చేసి న్యూ బార్న్ ఉంది, ఇది వచ్చేసి అడల్ట్స్కి ఉంది. సో న్యూ బార్న్ మెజారిటీగా ఈ కర్వ్ అనేది చాలా హైట్ గా రావడానికి కారణం ఏంటి అని అంటే, బికాస్ దిస్ ఇస్ అ డిస్ట్రిబ్యూషన్ ఫర్ బేబీస్. పుట్టినప్పుడు మెజారిటీగా అందరికీ ఉండే కామన్ హైట్ ఈస్ 20 inches, ఓకే, విచ్ ఇస్ వెరీ కామన్. చాలా రేర్ గా డివియేషన్ అనేది ఉంటుంది. బట్ వెరస్ ఇఫ్ యూ హ్యావ్ అడల్ట్స్, యూ ఫైండ్ వేరియేషన్స్. కొంతమంది బాగా హైట్ ఉంటారు, కొంతమంది చాలా లో ఉంటారు, చాలా యావరేజ్, కొంతమంది మాత్రమే యావరేజ్ ఉంటారు. నార్మల్ డిస్ట్రిబ్యూషన్ ఆర్ ఆల్వేస్ సెంటర్డ్ ఇన్ ద యావరేజ్ వాల్యూ. సో ఈ కర్వ్ లాగా వచ్చింది, వాట్ ఎవర్ హెస్ కమ్ as a curve is the most important thing that you have to understand. And then just by looking at the graph, you will tell that there is a high probability that newborn babies, all of them between 90 to 21 inches ఉంటారని. వెరాజ్ అడల్ట్స్ అయితే 80 to 60 to 80 మధ్య ఇంచ్లో ఉంటున్నారు. దాని లోపల ఏదైనా ఉండొచ్చు. యూ మే ఈవెన్ నోటీస్ దట్ ద కర్వ్ ఆఫ్ ద బేబీస్ ఇస్ వే టాల్ కంపేర్డ్ విత్ ద కర్వ్ ఆఫ్ ద అడల్ట్స్. దట్ ఈస్ బికాస్ దెర్ మోర్ పాసిబిలిటీస్ ఫర్ అడల్ట్స్ హైట్స్. వాళ్ళ హైట్స్ లో వేరియేషన్స్ ఎక్కువ ఉంటాయి, వెరాజ్ చిల్డ్రన్ హైట్స్ లో యూ విల్ నాట్ ఫైండ్ మచ్ వేరియేషన్. స్పెసిఫిక్ మెజర్మెంట్స్ కెన్ బి డన్ on one of them. So that's why you find that the width of the curve is also defined as a standard deviation. ఇందాక మనం అనుకున్న స్టాండర్డ్ డివియేషన్ గివ్స్ యూ అ బెల్ స్ట్రక్చర్డ్. ఆ వచ్చిన నెంబర్ ఎక్కడ ఫిట్ అవుతుంది యావరేజ్ లో, దాన్ని బట్టి బెల్ ఏ షేప్ లో వస్తుంది అనేది స్టాండర్డ్ డివియేషన్ డిసైడ్ చేస్తుంది. సో స్టాండర్డ్ డివియేషన్ ఫర్ బేబీస్ ఈస్ 0.6 హియర్ అండ్ స్టాండర్డ్ డివియేషన్ ఫర్ అడల్ట్స్ ఈస్ 4 హియర్. So knowing the standard deviation is helpful because normal curves are drawn such as 95% measurement fall minus plus or minus 2 standard deviation around the mean. So mean kanukuntene meer standard deviation cheyagలుగుతారు. So mean is important and standard deviation is important to know what, whether your distribution is normal or not. If your distribution is normal, then you can go for a parametric study. If your distribution is not normal, then you go for a non-parametric study. అందుకని మీకు ఈ స్టాండర్డ్ డివియేషన్ గురించి ఇంత డీటెయిల్గా చెప్పడం జరిగింది. ఐ హోప్ ఐ హ్యావెంట్ గివెన్ యూ టూ మచ్ ఆఫ్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ అండ్ కన్ఫ్యూజ్డ్ యూ ఫ్రమ్ అండర్స్టాండింగ్ ద కాన్సెప్ట్. Half of them have left. I don't know whether they thought it's too much to understand or what. Is this clear, Ranjay Garu? I hope if you read something, you will understand. Research, most of the time you can observe many of the videos. Anything you don't understand, you can text me regarding that. I will send you a supporting video where you can learn more about those statistical methods. Parametric, non-parametric అనేవి బాగా చదువుకోవాలి, because parametric studies, under that you get something like T test, F test, Z test, ఇవన్నీ కండక్ట్ చేస్తారు with normal distribution. Non-parametric అయితే కనుక you have something like chi-square test. ఎక్కువగా most of the time what kind of researches are taken is non-parametric, where you have chi-square test has been taken, and then it is not a normal distribution, it is a distribution free statistics. Like that, so many things are associated with it. So I hope I'm clear. If you all are okay, I shall close the class because it's already time. Any questions, Andy?
Other standard deviation is still a little bit confusion, madam. So
అది
median,
formula,
mean, median mode is okay.
యా అది ఫార్ములా తోటి ట్రై చేస్తే, మీరు జస్ట్ ఆ ఫార్ములా చూసుకుంటే ఒకటికి 2 సార్లు చూస్తే మీకు వచ్చేస్తుందండి. ఇట్స్ నాట్ ఎ ప్రాబ్లమ్, ఇట్స్ నాట్ యాక్చువల్లీ టఫ్ థింగ్. ఓన్లీ థింగ్ ఇస్ బికాస్ యూ ఆర్ ఫర్ ద ఫస్ట్ టైమ్ హియరింగ్, ఐ థింక్, ఈ స్టాండర్డ్ డీవియేషన్ కదా. That is the reason. Otherwise, if you keep hearing, listening or watching videos related to this, you will be easily able to understand. Standard deviation వస్తేనే మీకు ఆ కర్వ్ అనేది తెలుస్తుంది, మీ డేటాలో కర్వ్ ఎలా ఉందనేది. ఆ బెల్ కర్వ్ ని బట్టి మీ డేటా డిస్ట్రిబ్యూషన్ ఎలా ఉందో తెలుస్తుంది. దాన్ని బట్టి ఏ టెస్ట్ చేయొచ్చు అనేది తెలుస్తుంది అనమాట. ఆ టెస్ట్ చేసి మీరు సైంటిఫిక్ గా ప్రూవ్ చేయొచ్చు రీసెర్చ్. అంతే లాజిక్ ఇక్కడ. ఓకే, thank you all. Any doubts anytime you can text so that I can send you related videos. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.